All right, Sistas fans, better late than never. This is my review for Season 3, Episode 8, entitled Little White Lies. A lot of people said this episode was boring. I can definitely see where that was coming from. I'll give this episode a solid 7 out of 10. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was based off what everybody told me. But I don't know if this review is going to be super long because, well, for the most part, I think what I really got most out of the episode was this was kind of like a unofficial semi-backdoor pilot to All the Queen's Men, as well as, just kind of setting up what's to happen. I really did get excited at certain elements, like when El Fuego came on there, when Karen busted out the court documents, and, even the Fatima scene. But at the end of the day, this episode, it was alright. So yeah, let's just hop right into it. And even though I know this review's late, and I mentioned this in I think my overview, I don't really have, even if I had watched this episode last week, I don't think I would have blown up the channel with a bunch of theory discussion videos because there really isn't much to talk about. I mean, a lot of the stuff I predicted, especially the Gary thing, there isn't much to talk about, but let's just hop into the episode. So we spend several minutes with Fatima telling Andi about why she should come over to the apartment, but not saying really why the reason was. She's saying like 50 different things about why you should come down here. And Andy's like, wait, well, you're already down there. And if I had time to stop by the apartment, I would have went myself instead of sending you. And I mean, I ain't gonna lie, the moaning and cry, that really sounded like some sex going on. So she says, I'm coming over there as soon as I can. So she leaves ASAP to go to her apartment because Fatima's like, this is some crazy stuff. Sabrina's the first one to arrive at the girls' night. And she's on the phone with Danny and pretty much, lightly giving details about the whole situation with Jacoby. And that's kind of a running theme in the seasons of Sisters we've gotten so far. We're almost like 2 to 3 times there's going to be that girls' night where everybody catches up on the gossip about what's going on in each other's lives. And remember, this entire meeting is about, making peace between Karen and Andi over what happened at the surprise wedding. But essentially, Danny's like, hey, I'm on the way. And El Fuego McAllister arrives, a girl she knew in college. And apparently he knew of the other 3 girls as well, Danny, Andi, and Karen. And apparently back in the day, he was fat, had acne, and bad teeth. All things I can relate with right now. But in any case, there was a girl, apparently the love of his life, Stacy, that was taken by a guy named Jonathan. But, she is just blown away by how he's changed since college. He's fit, tall, just like, oh, wow, you're a dancer. Okay. And this was like one of the standout moments of the episode, as I mentioned, towards the beginning of the video, the fact that, well, this was a backdoor introduction to Club Eden, which is the name of the club on All the Queen's Men, coming to BET Plus September 9th, I think. Yeah, I think it's the 9th. But in any case, he invites her and the girls to come over at some point, and I'm like, okay, so this could mean a lot if this actually does happen. This could be a crossover, but at the same time, it somewhat confirms that we're building a Tyler Perry universe on Viacom where Sisters and Bruh already exist in the same universe, and also Club Eden, which is where All the Queen's Men take place. I mean, it isn't official yet. All it would take is just like one newspaper article or even a billboard or something in the background. But if there was a way to confirm that Hunter is the president in the universe of Sisters, then that means all of these Viacom shows, The Oval, Ruthless, Sisters, Bruh, and soon to be All the Queen's Men, all exist in the same universe, which would be freaking awesome. But anyway, he splits to go to a bachelorette party where he's going to be a performer. And we go over to Andi arriving at the apartment. She bursts into the bathroom, and because she overhears what's going on, and Gary's on the phone with his therapist, Angela, and they're doing some exercises to work through what happened the night before. And, when she just lets Gary finish doing what he's doing. You know, he's releasing, not releasing. She thanks Fatima for having her back. And I really like this moment because easily Andi could have just went off or whatever. But based on what Fatima was saying, look, you know, I was here the entire time. I didn't move from this spot. Well, unless there was a woman that he flushed down the toilet, he was on the phone. And I really liked it. She could have easily, you know, just said something smart, but she thanked Fatima. And I like that. That was just a good moment. So she's like, hey, can you call the girls and say I'm going to be a little bit late because of the setback? So Danny actually arrives to the girls' night, and I'm thinking to myself, I think somebody on Twitter said this, like, Andi, you should know not to have Fatima calling these girls for you, especially when she isn't in the best light with most of them. So Danny arrives and talks to Sabrina about Preston and the whole situation. And something, look, as a guy, I don't really have the best, you know, confidence in talking about how a woman looks in a certain dress, unless I'm like, damn, she's fine. But I don't feel it's my right to say when somebody doesn't look great. All I know is based on Twitter, the Facebook group for Sisters, and YouTube comments, people weren't rocking with Danny's dress, but it was some sort of like running gag in the episode that the girls would comment on the dress looking good, and I'm just sitting here like, okay. But in any case, she brings up the fact that El Fuego is like, oh yeah, Danny actually knows about him. Yeah, dance at the club and everything. And Karen arrives too and mentions the dress. Apparently, based off how Danny's dressed up, they can tell that something's going on with Cowboy or Rodeo. And she tells the girls that there's something that she wants to say, but she can't do it until Andi's there. But we know it's about the lawsuit based on the preview. So Andi and Gary have a brief talk in the living room about how the exercises are helping him work through the stress and tension. Not a big Gary fan, but I'm happy to see that he's keeping his word about going to therapy. That was something I thought would easily get swept under the rug, even though I'm surprised Gary hasn't said anything about what he brought up at the end of season 2, where it's like, yeah, I think we both should go to therapy, but Andi's like, I don't need to go to therapy. So at least Gary, look, I know he's not the nicest guy based off certain things like abusing women, but at least he's trying to get better. Again, I'm not vouching for the guy, but at least we see Gary trying to self-improve. Just saying. But at the end of the day, it's like, oh, you're going out with the girls wearing that. It's like, you know, it's not that I don't trust you. It's about other guys. And you know what? I'm not saying anything. I'm going to work past it. But it's like at the same time you say you trust Andi, it's like, well, you don't because of what you do later in the episode. So it's like, hey, I'll be home at 11. That's a little late. No, I'll be home as soon as I can. Okay. And I promise you that, because I think Gary says something like, well, I just don't know. I don't want you to like think about anybody else. And Andi says, I'm not thinking about having sex with anybody else. But at the same time, I'm like, well, Andi, that doesn't mean you're not thinking about anyone else. So Andi calls Fatima to tell Robin to meet her at the location where the girls are at instead of at the Carlisle Hotel. And Fatima's like, hey, as your employee, you're my boss, I'll do it. But as your friend, are you sure you want to do this? And then in Andi's little mind, this is, well, technically speaking, I'm still going out with the girls. Like I said, Robin's just going to happen to be at the location. So technically I didn't lie. Right. All right. So the girls are there, you know, chatting it up. Andi arrives and she learns about the situation about Jacoby and it's like, hey, if I can't do it myself personally, I'll get somebody at the law firm to back you up on those sexual harassment charges. And this is the part that kind of made me upset because I'm not the biggest Karen fan, but I agree. Why the hell does she have to apologize? Was she out of line? Was she wrong for leaving? I mean, if you don't want to stand up there for somebody's bullshit, then you ain't got to stand up there for their bullshit. Let them make their own decisions. Like Danny did say, Andi's a grown woman. She's going to make her choices. But I do not agree. And I'm happy Karen did not falter. She pretty much said, I'm sorry for how I said what I said, but I'm not sorry for what I said. I'm just sorry for how I said it. And then, you know, Sabrina and Danny try to make her, make a true apology. But as I said, I don't disagree with what Karen did because kind of like in the real world, let's say if somebody tweets something or posts something controversial, typically, and let's be real here, let's say it was something about Mario Lopez, I think is one of the examples that come to mind. Wasn't it about a couple years or so, he said something along the lines of, if his child was like 7 or 8 and they said they wanted to be a different gender, he wouldn't approve of it because, well, they're only 7 or 8. And he got backlash for it, and then he apologized, which a lot of people were like, you shouldn't have done that. It's like, because of the fact that you said nothing wrong. You were talking about your child. You weren't talking about children in general. You meant your child. So there's always the people who either buckle down and they either bow down and apologize to a quote unquote community of people that they feel have been offended because of backlash, or they double down. Let's look at the baby. The baby. I think that's how you say it. That's the more recent case, but the Mario Lopez one comes to mind most because I just feel in that situation, why would you be offended? He was talking about how he would raise his kid. But in any case, with Karen, it's the same thing. It's like, the whole marriage thing didn't sit right with you because that's your friend. But oh gosh, okay. So, it's funny because after her quote unquote apology, Karen's like, well, I'm waiting for your apology. Andy's like, for what? And then the girl's like, wait, what are you talking about? And then when she whipped out that subpoena, this was one of the few times I was cheering for Karen. I'm like, yep, Karen, tell him what it is. And even better, this subpoena wasn't for just the whole thing about, Andi wrecking her marriage and the fact that, the girls were also being accomplices in the in the report. She's like, it's funny because Gary's wife, ex-wife Jasmine, is currently in jail for shooting him and holding Andi at gunpoint. And this was the best part of the freaking episode here. I know everybody's talking about how Fatima chewed out Hayden, but this to me was sorry, I gotta readjust this chair. This was the best part for me. When the girls are like, whoa, what's going on here? It's like, when were you going to tell us? Andi just kind of brushes it off like it's a normal occurrence about how, well, yeah, Gary lost his key and his ex-wife found it, then appeared at my apartment and shot him, and I defended myself and she got arrested. And it's like, wow, you just brushing it off like it's just a normal occurrence. This reminded me of the finale for the haves and the have-nots when Benny's like, it's my bad, I'll take the fall for this one. When Hannah was like, Candace, it's because she didn't give Jim Cry that money we had to drive by. And Benny's like, no, Ma, this is me. See, there was this girl. And I'm just thinking about, you talking about this like it's a normal thing. And technically, it really is with the Young family. But yeah, Andy's like, it's just funny because this is how it works. Either Karen or Danny. It's interchangeable. Either Karen or Danny tell Andi what it is. But then the other two girls, whether it be Danny and Sabrina or Karen and Sabrina, tell either Karen or Danny they're out of line, they're wrong, to shut up. But then when shit hits the fan and they understand everything that went on with Andi and Gary, then they want to say the exact same thing the first person said. It's just stupid. So yeah, I'm happy that they finally know about it. But remember, they still don't know about the parking lot brawl. So I guess this does confirm Jasmine is behind bars, but yeah, I don't know for how long. But in any case, Karen's like, yeah, I don't think she was going to tell us because it would have confirmed we were right about Gary and his bullshit. I'm like, I got up and clapped. I was like, yeah. So Robin came in at the nick of time, and then Andy's like, oh yeah, I got a tape for us in the back. And Dan's like, I like your turtleneck. So we go over to Hayden and Fatima, and Fatima's, like creating an air of false security. Hayden's like, wow, I never told you this is a nice place. Well, yeah, you haven't been here much. We need to change that. Zach comes in. He doesn't want to sit down. And basically Fatima was trending last week. I'll tell you that much right now. She was freaking trending. She pretty much went into Hayden saying, look, you need to put him at the back of the top of the list. I don't care what it takes for you to do it, because I know a lot about you and the chain breakers. There's a lot of dirt of the bodies you all have buried. So you get Zach at the top of the list by tomorrow. I don't care what you have to do. And Zach, you need to understand and believe that I wouldn't do anything to destroy you just because I'm pissed off. I think Zach brought that up because remember how after he and Karen fell out, Karen thought he was the one that took the credit card and what was it, $5,000 and got him arrested. So I can kind of understand where he's coming from, but Fatima's like, you need to trust me. And then you need to understand I'm crazy. Once I reach a certain point, there's no turning back. Now get the F out of my apartment. And they're both kind of just standing there like, no, that was for you. That was for you. But Hayden ends up leaving. And they have a little bit of a petty exchange. Those are nice boots. They're going to be up your ass if you keep messing with me. Nice short sleeve shirt. Boy, you going to the disco? Look at that shirt, man. It's 2021. And some fans told me about this, and yes, it makes no damn sense that this show is in 2021. Kind of like when I watched the first couple episodes of Bruh Season 2, and there was a reference to George Floyd, and I'm like, this show should not be taking place in 2021. I'm just kind of used to it by now. It is what it is. But we go over to Robin and Andi. Oh, also Zach, for some reason, doesn't leave while Hayden does. But anyway, Robin and Andi, Robin's shocked at the fact that Andi's client has such an offer, considering everything. Is like, well, I might lose my client. Oh, that's tragic. So, he's like, well, hey, why don't we go back to my hotel? I had this romantic dinner set up and everything, but hey, you see this? That's a little bit small, huh? Well, I'm engaged, but he hasn't. I mean, if you haven't said I do, then technically it's still fair game. And it's like a funny little exchange, but basically it's like, look, fine, I'll finish the wine at this table, and then that's it. Okay, great, cause my girl's over there. So Fatima comes out of her room, and she's actually about to head out somewhere, and she tells Zach to leave, but he apologizes for how he acted, not trusting her, and basically again she's like, you need to leave, but then they start kissing. It's like, wait, you're saying you want me to leave, but do you really want me to leave? You know what I want. And then they go at it because what's going down. So then the girls are watching Andi and Robin, from a distance, and they have a little bit of a flirtatious exchange before Gary shows up, and then that's the end of the episode. But overall, I thought this was a pretty decent episode. I mean, I don't think it was as boring as everybody said it was, but I enjoyed it. So thanks so much for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.